Okay, guys. So today we're going to learn how to set up a project in 3ds Max. I believe this is 2014 design. The only difference between design and the regular 3ds Max are two options. There's one for linking your AutoCAD file for civil engineering, and it allows you to do these civil engineering demos and visualizations a lot easier, and it keeps the real-world scale between AutoCAD and Max. And then there's another module that's in here for testing realistic lighting, fall off, and stuff. So really that's the only difference. So if you guys have 3ds Max at home, we're not going to touch either one of those. So it's going to perform the same. So you can either use Design or 3ds Max, no problem. All right. First thing we want to do, last week we kind of got into exploration of the interface, how to navigate stuff, how to build basic primitives. And this week what we're going to do is we're going to get into a certain type of primitive called AEC primitives. And that we can get those by going up here into Create, and it's called AEC Objects. We're primarily going to focus today on walls, and then the next ones aren't really AEC objects. We have windows and doors. And so I want to teach you guys how to kind of lay out your floor plan very quickly and easily. And then I'm going to show you another way at the end where we're going to actually bring in an AutoCAD file and extrude from that. So I just wanted you to know both ways, and then you guys can do whichever way you're more comfortable with. All right. So the first thing we want to do now that we're actually working in Max and we have things that we want to save that are of value, the first thing I want to show you guys is how to set up your project. And so I'm going to come over here up near the file window, and I'm going to come over in the GUI all the way over to this icon right here. And if you highlight that and just let your cursor hover over it for a little bit, it'll tell you that that's the project folder, and it'll give you a link as to where that project folder currently is. What I want you guys to get in the habit, probably from this day forward, of doing is setting up your project folder each time you set down to Max. And this is kind of really only important when you're working here at school. When you're at home, if you keep using the same Max version, it's just going to keep saving into this directory anyway. And so you really don't have to be too mindful of this. But while you're working at school, you want to do what I'm about to do. So I'm going to come over to this icon and I'm going to click it. And what this thing is doing now is it's asking me, what do I want to use for my project directory? All right. Here's the recommended workflow for while you're working at school. I recommend setting your project directory to the desktop and then make a new folder on the desktop. And I'm going to call this folder my digital modeling 1 project. Okay. And then I'm going to say select this folder and OK. And then I want to check that right now to make sure it works. So I'm going to hover my cursor over the project folder, and there it is. It's in C, Users, Faculty, Desktop, My DMI project. So what that means is it created a folder on my desktop, and check it out. Look what else it did. If I open up that folder on the desktop, I have all these additional directories in there. And the reason why these directories are important is because these are the places where Max looks to for assets. So if you have, say, materials or texture maps that we're going to apply to the objects in our scene, we're going to store these in these directories. If you get used to using this and then you store all your scenes in the scenes folder here, what this means is that when you come to school, all you have to do is copy this folder and then copy it onto your hard drive, your external drive, and you're going to take everything with it. So you don't ever have to worry about losing links or anything. Everything's going to be self-contained in that little folder there. All right. And then vice versa. After you've copied it once to your flash drive or your external, then when you come in here to work, you're going to copy that folder off onto your desktop, and then you're going to come over here into Max and you're going to say set project, and you're going to navigate to that folder and just click on it and say, this is my project directory. Now Max has everything it needs. When everything you model or build, it's going to store in those directories neatly for you, and then you're going to copy that back onto your hard drive, and it just makes it so you basically don't lose anything. So last time I taught this, not this class because I haven't taught this class, but when I taught digital modeling too, they were constantly having problems with losing links to all their external files and stuff, and I was just it seemed like it took like 5 weeks. I was like, no, you guys have to start doing it this way because you won't have this problem. And by the end, I think they kind of got the hang of it and started using it. So that's first and foremost. Get in the habit of working out of a project folder and then setting that up every time you sit down here to work at school. Okay. And then now that we got the business out of the way, we can actually start building stuff. Okay, so some of you guys were concerned last week with the scale of the scene here in 3ds Max. And so I want to just show you how the units inside of Max work. All right, so if we want to set up our coordinate system, so our reference coordinate system for the scene, we do that by coming over here into Customize. And we're going to go down to this item here, which is Units and Setup. Okay, so again, that's in the text-based drop-down, Customize, Units Setup. Okay, and then I'm going to click that to launch it. And then it opens up the Units Setup dialog box. If I click on the System Unit Setup right now, it opens it up and it tells me that 1 unit equals 1 inch. Okay, and so that means that each one of these boxes here is going to be equal to 1 inch. All right, and so, oh, actually, crap, it kept it. Sorry. When you open it up, I actually changed this during the break and then it kept it. So when you open it up, it should be in just generic units. And this probably, I don't know if this says a foot or inches. It doesn't really matter because I'm about to change it. And then we have the display unit scale. And we want to change this to US standard, feet with fractional inches. And then we're going to just use a 32nd of an inch. Okay. And this is kind of less important, as you'll see here in a second. And I'm going to accept this. So I'm using feet with fractional inches, and I'm going to say OK. And then now this is kind of more important, is how we're going to actually subdivide the grid inside the interface so that each one of these units equals whatever we want it to be. And this we can change by going into the snap settings right here with the little 3 with the little horseshoe magnet. And if I right click on that, it's going to open up the settings for that, grid and snap settings. And then I'm going to go to the home grid. Okay, so this tab right here, home grid. This is where it's asking me, okay, how do you want the grid to be spaced? I want my grid to be spaced. Right now, its grid spacing is every 10 inches. And I'm going to change this to 1 foot. So I'm going to type a foot, 1 in there and hit enter. And you can see it changed from 10 inches to 1 foot. So now I have each one of these squares is 1 foot. All right. And then if I come down here in major lines every nth number, this one I'm just going to change to the minimum, which is 2. What that is it's going to make like every 10 lines darker, and so you know that you went 10 units. I kind of don't like those. To me, they're kind of confusing, and so I'm just, by turning that down into 2, I'm kind of disabling that feature. All right, the next thing that I want to do here is under the perspective view grid extent. If you'll notice, it says 7, and if I count these boxes, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this means that it's going to give me 7 grid boxes in each quadrant. So each quadrant is basically, there's 4 quadrants in the Cartesian coordinate space or 3D space. We got quadrant, I don't know what if this is actually quadrant 1, but we got 1 quadrant, 2 quadrants, 3 quadrants, 4 quadrants. So if I give this thing a value of, say, I don't even know. What I like to do is give it a value of a little bit larger than my largest object that I'm about to put in my scene. And so I'm going to increase this to say like 30, and then I'm going to say OK. All right, cool. Now my grid in my perspective view is large, and 1 grid equals 1 foot. And so now I'm ready to start building stuff. So now I'm just going to do a dummy. We're going to do a very simple one until we get the hang of this, and then we're going to do it again a little bit more complicated. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to use the origin as kind of my 0, 0 point, and I'm going to build just out into 1 quadrant. So I'm just going to use this quadrant right here. All right, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say create AEC Objects, and I want to do a wall. So it's worth noting that you can enter the create AEC Objects wall by either using the drop down here, so AEC Objects wall, or I can also use the create tab, which looks like a little sun here, and I can use geometry and then click on here and go down into AEC extended and then select wall. So either of those ways is valid. Once I'm in the wall tool, what's going to happen is wherever I click, it's going to make a wall. When I right click, then I'm going to stop making walls. So it works just like the primitives tool. So that wasn't a very good one though. So I'm going to start over. All right, so I'm going to click on wall. I'm going to do it now through the GUI. Create AEC extended wall. And this is really cool. Under the width, you can put in a value for how wide you want your wall to be. So the first walls I'm going to build are going to be exterior walls. So I'm going to make those guys 1 foot wide. So I'm going to type 1 and hit enter. That's a 1 foot width. And then height, exterior wall, I'm going to do like 10 because I want 9 foot ceilings in my building. And so I'm going to do 10, and now that's 10 feet tall. And then here we have justification, and this is basically which side of my cursor it's going to draw the wall on. And so we have center. So if I turn on my grid snaps, I'm going to turn on grid snaps and use grid points. And now if I click, watch what happens. It's going to center that new wall centered right on the line. And if I undo that, if you don't like the stroke you just made, so if you don't like the wall you just laid down, you can backspace out. So if I create a bunch of elements, I just backspace out, and I can get back to square one. All right, so we have center justification. We also have left, and it unfortunately won't let me do that on the fly. I always try to see if it will, and then it won't. So I'm going to say create wall. So we have left. So left will basically put it on the inside there of the line, or we have right, which is going to, oh there, that's cool. It actually changed it after the fact, where it'll push it to the outside. So it's up to you. So if you want your inside dimensions of your space to be perfectly whatever you lay out, you're probably going to want to have the wall pushed to the outside so that it doesn't muck up whatever you're drawing. However, in this case, because each grid unit is 1 foot and the wall has a thickness of 1 foot, it really wouldn't mess you up anyway. But it's just worth noting that you want to watch that. Okay, so I'm going to go into wall here, and I liked my right justification. My width is 1 foot, my height is 10 foot, and now I'm just going to build a 20 by 20 space. So I'm going to start here at the origin, and if you'll notice, my cursor is snapping to the grid units. But look at this. If I look down here at the bottom, this little readout right here, it's also giving me a location for where my point is in space. So right now it says 0, 0, 0, which is the origin. All right. So if I click there and drop a point, I can use that little readout down here to tell me where I am in space. So if I want my wall to be 20 units wide, I can just look down here and be like, okay, 20 in X. All right. Not 21, 20 in X. All right. Now I'm going to drop it. I'm going to come down here again, and now I'm looking at, I want 20 in X and 20 in Y. So I'm going to do that, boom. And I'm actually not even looking up here in the perspective view. I'm actually looking down here while I draw this out. All right. I'm going to come in here, and now I don't want 1, I want 20 in Y. And then finally, I'm going back to the origin, and it's saying weld points, and I say yes, and I'm done. There's my room. Sweet. I just built my first object in Max. Awesome. All right, and then I'm going to do this really fast, and then we're going to do it again slow. All right. So I built my exterior wall dimensions, and now let's say I want to put a door into this space. So super easy. It's almost way too freaking easy for you guys. I swear to God. I wish the tools were this easy when I started. They weren't. Real easy. All we have to do is come over here into the Create tab again. Click on the drop down, and I want to say doors. So I'm going to add a door, and in this case I'm going to use a pivot door, which is just a basic hinged door. And then I'm going to do something else here. Before I create this guy, I kind of want to see through my wall. And so what I need to do is, unfortunately the walls don't truly behave like regular old objects. Regular old objects I can just Alt X and click and make it semi-transparent, but the walls by default, I believe it creates them in layers. So I'm going to go to the layer editor, and right now it is putting these walls in the default layer. And if I wanted to, I could make another layer right now, and call it walls. And then it actually assigned this object to it because I clicked on this button, which is create new layer and assign selected object to it. And so now I have a layer called walls. And if I were to keep creating stuff, it would just keep creating these items in there. All right. I'm going to right click on the walls layer, and I'm going to go to the layer properties, and I want to change it to see-through so that I can actually see through it a little bit. And then I'm going to hit F4, which is edged faces, so it's going to show my edges on top of my object. And the reason I'm doing this is because I actually want to snap to these edges when I create my door. All right, so now I'm going to create a new layer. Where is it? And I'm going to call this one doors. And I want to make sure that's the active layer by turning on the checkbox right there. Okay. And I'm just going to pull that down out of the way. And now I'm going to create my door. I'm going to come over here into my snaps and change from grid points to edges. So edges are segments. And then I'm going to say OK. All right, cool. The way doors work are you click and drag left or right, and that is basically the width of the door. And then the next dimension, click backwards, is the depth of the door. And then the next dimension is the height of the door. And if you'll notice, I did not do this precisely in any way. I basically just built it because it's going to be easier for me to build it in place. And then I'm going to select it and come over here into the modifier tab and change everything. So I'm going to come over here and give my door a height of 7.5 feet. Hit enter. A width of, say, 36 inches, because this is an exterior door. So that's 3 feet. And then my depth, it does need to cut all the way through the building, so I'm going to leave that at 1. All right. Now, these are very beautiful objects because this is ridiculously easy. It just cut the hole in my freaking wall for me. And then if I go back here and turn on, I'm going to go to my walls layer, and under the layer properties, I'm going to make it unsee-through again here. You can see here that it cut the door through, and then the beauty of these objects also is that the door is procedural. So I can select on the door, and I can turn it into double doors if I want to. I can flip the swing, which is basically the hinge, which way it's going to go. I can open my door. Oh, hello. Welcome home, Joel. Thank you. All right.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
That layer box that you keep popping up,
Uh-huh.
how did you get there again?
So I'm going to do this again with you guys.
Okay.
But the layer box is basically, this is the layers dialog. Whoops. Right here, manage layers. And we're going to do this again. So I just wanted to build the most simplest thing. Let me do a window so I can show you also. So I'm going to do another object here. I'm going to do a window this time. It really does help if I make the wall semi-transparent here. So I'm going to go into the wall properties and make it see-through. All right, and then I'm just going to kind of pull this guy out of the way. And then now I'm going to do another object. So I'm going to come back into the Create tab. And instead of a door, I'm going to do a window. All right, so windows are pretty much the same. We're going to, I probably should have made another layer. Let me do that real fast. So I'm going to open up the layers dialog, and I'm going to make a new layer. Oops, I accidentally did that wrong because I had that guy selected. I did not want to add that to the selection. So my new layer is right there. I'm going to name this one Windows. Okay, and I'm going to make it active. And now when I create my new window, it's going to go right into that layer for me. So I'm going to say Windows, and then we have all the different options: awning, casement, fixed, pivoted, projected, sliding, whatever. I'm going to just do, where is it? I can't remember if it was casement or pivoted. I can't remember. All right, so same deal. Windows are width, depth, and height. And then now, once I've made that window, I can actually slide it up. Did you guys see that? It cut the hole from the bottom, and it's procedural. So no matter where I place that in space, it's going to cut a hole perfectly around it. And then this is what I love the best right here, is you don't even realize how long this takes to do this with conventional video game techniques. You actually have to plan out all the holes and stuff. And this just makes it, it's too easy. I'm jealous of you. I'm sick of you guys. Get out of my face. All right, so I'm going to pause this and we're going to do it again, okay? So we're going to do that all again also. Okay, guys, so many of you were having trouble in creating your door elements where you're trying to snap and then all of a sudden you create this door and it's like, I don't know, it's crazy. It won't let you snap. It won't let you do width, depth, height, right? And the culprit on this, if I can recreate this just through the settings, is this. I'm going to first make my layer here see-through. So I'm going to come over here to walls and make it see-through. Say OK. All right. Now I'm ready to create a door. And the one that was giving everyone consistently the same problems was the sliding door. So I actually had this problem myself when I was going over this yesterday. So I want to snap to edge segment. This is very important. You want to clear all your snaps because we really only want to snap to edges. We don't want to snap to grid points on this one. And so this is pretty important. So make sure that says edge. Okay. And then I'm going to come over here into my create tab and I want to create doors. And this one is the one that was causing problems, sliding. And what it is if these parameters, I'm going to try to set these to something kind of generic, like 2 feet, and I'll just do everything at 2 feet. And so the frame was the culprit. The frame was giving everyone problems because the default settings on the frame were like 6 feet or something, which is cartoonish proportions. And now I'm going to try to do this again. So I'm going to come in here and click create, and I mean that looks stupid. That's like I don't even know what I'm looking at. And then I create it and it either looks like something like this, or I'm going to delete that one and I'm going to make a new one. Watch what happens if I even increase the settings on this even higher, the frame. I'm going to put on what they had, which was 6 feet for most of you guys. All right, and the offset, that's fine. And now I'm going to try to do this again and check it out. It almost gets to the point where the only reason I'm able to do this is because I kind of know what I'm doing. But if you don't know what's happening, it makes it nearly impossible to even create the asset. And that is, on this one, it's all got to do with the frame settings and how deep they are. So what you can do if you want to try this again, so I'm going to delete this one, is you can select the type of door you want and just go through and kind of zero all these parameters. So I'm going to use something that's kind of a low value, 0.1. So 0.1 comes out to like 1 inch and 6/30 seconds. So I'm resetting everything to 1 inch basically. And then I'll do this everywhere where I see something that could give me problems. So this one, the styles top rail is like 1 foot. I'm going to change that to 0.1. And unfortunately, you're going to have to figure this out for each one of these types of primitives because they all behave a little bit differently and they all have different settings. So I'm going to do 0.1 there. And now watch what happens when I go to create this. It's going to be a lot friendlier and look a lot better. And then I still have access to all those parameters to go back and change them. I just have to create my object, go back into the noodle, and I'm going to change my height to 7.5, my width to 6, and then my depth to 1 foot. All right. And then now we've got crazy kind of offset settings. It's kicking the door back out the back. And that's probably somewhere up here in the rail settings. So thickness, there we go. I can change the thickness. I encourage you guys, because I don't have all these memorized, nor probably will you, is you're just going to have to go search through and find, where is it? That's the frame depth. I'm trying to figure out why that's offset back there. And it may just be that I moved it or I didn't click on the right edges. All right, so I got to turn off my snaps. And I think that's probably the culprit in this case. So I'm going to center it up. All right, this brings me to another good point. So you're going to have to find those parameters. Here I'm going to adjust the width of the frame. And you're just going to have to tweak those and figure out which one does what. Now watch this. You may be asking yourselves, well, what happens if I create a door out here in the world and I want to move it in here and just put it on my wall? So I want to address that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the Create tab And I'm going to say I want to create a pivot door because those are the simplest ones. And I'm just going to use my grid snaps and snap to grid points. And I'm going to go boom. See, the settings on this one are also very large down here. And so it's making it kind of look like Fisher-Price, right? And so you have two options. You can either change those before you start creating, or you can just draw it out and then modify it later. In this case, I'm going to choose to draw it out and modify it later. So it looks like nothing, right, at this point. And that's because all the settings were too high for the world. So I'm going to select this dude, and I'm going to come over here and just change everything to what I want it to be. So 7.5. And then width, what do I want? 3 feet. And then depth, I want 1 foot. And so it was, the settings were all so large also that I really didn't have control over my door, and it's actually oriented incorrectly with respect to the wall I want to put it into. And the frame is huge. The frame has a width of 2 feet. That's nuts. So I'm going to change that to like a 0.2. And then the frame depth, I mean, that's crazy. A foot? No, stupid. So I'm going to change this to 0.2 as well. And then, where is it? No, that I want to be a foot. There's another value which is making the door very huge, and I got to find it. Top rail. That's what it is. Thickness of the door is absolutely absurd. So the door would be about 2.5 inches thick. So I'm going to just do 0.2 to get it roughly. Okay, but we got a problem. So I got my door built the way I want it. And if I open it a little bit so that we can see that it is in fact a door opening inward, what if I want to attach this to the wall? Are you screwed? No, you're not screwed. What we have to do is we actually have to move the door into position. I'm going to turn on my angle snaps to rotate the door to get it into the correct orientation that I want. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And then now I'm going to push it into the wall. And we can see here that it's kind of going through the wall, right? But look what happens. Is there a hole cut out? Ah, that sucks, right? Well, how come it didn't work this time? And the answer is because, I think I have this thing a little bit screwed up, but the answer is because if you don't create the door on the wall by clicking on the wall, it doesn't automatically know that that door is supposed to be cut through that wall. So if you build the door or the window away from the wall, or for whatever reason it doesn't get the wall clicked to know that it's a subset of the wall, what you have to do is you have to actually select the child object, and then you got to turn on your links and select the parent object, and now it's going to cut a hole right through the door. So remember when I showed you guys this guy earlier? That's why I showed it to you. Is because this is a relationship where basically we have to tell the wall that this door is a child of the wall. And now once I've done that, now I can pretty much move that door around at will. And it's going to always cut a hole no matter what I do to it.
How do you do the door? Yeah.
To do what?
The door switch open and close.
The door open and close is right here. So open, and then you can flip the swing. So if you want it to open out, you can flip swing. You can flip the hinge, so if you want it to go to the other side. Now, I want you guys to be mindful that these models aren't very good, okay? The purpose of these models for us in this class are going to be to get everything roughed in really fast, and then we're going to come back and change these models out with higher detail models to get everything to look good. So these are kind of like placeholders that get you up and running really fast, get everything worked out, and then we're going to kind of come back and trace them, okay? All right, so now if I want to create a window, same deal as the doors. I'm going to come over here and I want to make my Windows layer active. And then I'm going to come over here into my Create tab, and instead of doors, I'm going to select Windows. And then I'm going to turn on my grid snaps to snap to segments or edges. And I'm going to, whoops, why isn't that? I have to tell it what kind of window I want to use. So I will do a sliding window, and it goes width, depth, height. Again, the settings on this window are a little crazy. Again, I have the choice of changing that ahead of time or doing it in post. I kind of prefer to do it after the fact.
What point snap right or whatever did you do?
I snap to edges. And then I'm going to come in here and modify this window after the fact. That height is crazy. That's a 7-foot window. No way. I'm going to do a 3-foot window, maybe 4-foot window. A width of, I'll make it square, 4 feet. A depth of 1 foot, that's fine. That's how deep my foundation is. And then the frame, I don't know why they have these frame settings set so high. Is 2 feet, that's crazy. So I'm just going to dial that back. And thickness, a couple inches is good. And now I can place that window wherever I want. And then if I want to open that window, I'm going to come down here to open and check it out. There's my window. I always open the windows to make sure that I've cut through the wall. That's the purpose of my operation there.
I am having issues placing my window on the wall.
Okay. The other thing that we can do once we have our walls created, and I just created some, dummy, junky doors and windows so we could explain how the tools work. The other thing you can do is you can create more walls. So right now we just have the exterior walls. If I go in here and make my walls layer active, and the other thing I want to do is I don't want those to be semi-transparent anymore. So I'm going to open up the layer settings and turn off the see-through. All right, and then I made walls active because I want to make some new walls. So I'm going to come in here to the inside of my house, or whatever this thing is, and I'm going to make some new walls. So I'm going to come over here into the Create tab, and I'm going to change it back to AEC Objects, and I want to use a wall. And because these are interior walls, I'm going to make them a little bit narrower. So I'm going to make them like 0.5, which will make them 6 inches thick. And then I'm going to give them a height of, say, 9 feet. So they're a little bit lower than the exterior walls. And then justification on this one, I'm going to change it to center. And then let's say we have a bedroom in here. So I'm going to make a bedroom. And I'm going to snap to grid points this time instead of edges. And I'm going to go, okay, my bedroom goes like this. All right, I'm done. And then let's say I've got a closet in this bedroom. So my closet's going to go from here to here. And now I'm done. Okay. And what we can do, which is kind of nice, is if we want these interior walls to be a part of the exterior walls, all we have to do is select the exterior wall, go to the Modify tab, click on the Attach button, and now I can attach those interior walls to that wall set, and there we go. Now they're all going to be one. And now if I want to create a set of doors for the interior walls, it's the same process as it was before. I'm going to go back here and first make my walls semi-transparent, so that'll help me draw my doors. And then I'm going to come in here and I want to hit the F4 key, which is going to turn on my edge faces so that I can kind of see my edges, which is going to help me snap to them. And I'm going to change my snaps back to edge. And I'm going to create another door here under doors. And this one I just want to be a pivot door. Okay, and turn on my snaps. And so, boom, there's my door, there's the thickness, and it's trying to snap to the edges. I really prefer, rather than trying to make these things to scale right off the bat, is to just create them and then select them and modify their values later. So this one is going to be 7 feet, or I think it's 7.5 for an interior or exterior door typically. And then the width, this is an interior door, so it's probably not going to be 36 inches wide. I'm going to make it like 28 inches. Or let's just do 2.5 feet, 2.5. And then depth, I just want it to be as deep as that wall, which is 6 inches. Okay. And then if I want a closet door in there, I'm going to do another door, come back here, and I'm going to say, I believe it's bifold doors for closet doors. Alrighty, and now I'm going to come in here and turn back on my snaps. I want to make sure that I'm snapping to edges. And there's my bifold doors going in right there, depth-wise. And then it's got the Fisher-Price look because the settings are huge on probably the frame. So I got to select it and then go back and modify it. So come back in here, and I'm going to change its height to 7.5 and its width to 6 feet. And then its depth, that's fine. And then here's the problem, this is why it looks so stupid, is because its width on the frame is 2 feet, and that's absolutely absurd. So I'm going to change that to something smaller, like a 0.2, and then depth of the frame to 0.2, and then, where is it, thickness. I don't know why those get tweaked out so large, but I'm going to change that to also 0.2. All right.
How do you edit something that you already have set?
So once we got our doors and windows made, let's say you want to edit a wall that you've created. And I wish this was easier, quite honestly, than it actually is, but I'll demystify. So I'm going to first make my walls so they're no longer semi-transparent. And if I want to edit the walls, what I have to do is select them, come over here into the modifier tab, and then expand the sub-object properties. And we have vertices, segments, and profile. Vertices, if we select them, will allow us to move the actual verts of the wall. See, I can change it. If we want to change the dimensions of the wall, we actually have to do that through the segments. So if we go into segment, and you actually have to select them. So if I go into segment and select all my segments, I can change the width to like 0.5, and notice they all get thinner. I can change the height to say 11, make it taller. And then bottom is just if you have like a foundation element, it'll raise it off the ground. So really we don't have to mess with that right now. So, all right, but the key here is you got to go into segment, and you actually have to select all the segments in order to be able to modify them. Watch what happens if I go into segment, but I don't select segments. So I'm going to deselect wall segment, and I have nothing selected, and I start changing these parameters. Check it out. Nothing's happening because I have to actually select them first and then modify them. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to bring in an AutoCAD drawing, and we're going to use it as basically a template from which to kind of trace our walls and windows and doors. And so it's very easy. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You do it through the File tab here. So if I go over to the File menu and I say Import and I just hover over it, we have a couple different ways. We have Link to AutoCAD, which is very powerful because it's actually going to create a live link between your AutoCAD file and your Max file. And when you change your AutoCAD file, it's actually going to update the AutoCAD file inside of Max. Now, being that we're new and this is only week 2, I don't recommend using this just yet, but I do want us to graduate to that maybe by the end of the class. Or you can explore it on your own, either way. Today, I'm going to kind of do it the easy way, which is to just simply import the object. So I'm going to come over here and say import, and then I'm going to navigate to my desktop where I had my DWG stored, which is this one, Condo 3D DWG. I'm going to open that up, and then it's going to open up the AutoCAD import options. And under Rescale, if you happen to know your units of measure that you used in your AutoCAD file, you can actually have the importer automatically rescale your drawing. Okay? So I happen to know that this incoming file was actually set to millimeters as the scale. And so I'm going to turn on the rescale and say millimeters. And then it's going to basically scale it up to my units, which is feet. All right, and then I'm going to come in here. And the next thing I want to do under Derive AutoCAD Primitives By, I want to change this to the first one, which is layer blocks as node hierarchy, and say OK. And then I'm going to leave everything else the same and say OK.
So you didn't do anything but that, right?
No, that's all I did.
Okay.
Okay. And now it brings my drawing in. I just grabbed this. This isn't actually my drawing. This is like, I got it off of AutoCAD's website. So it brings in my drawing here. And now what I can do is I can actually use this drawing to trace out elements. So we have my interior walls. One thing I do want to do that didn't just happen for me. Let me try this again. I want to reset this because something was supposed to pop up and it did not. So I'm going to say import.
So we don't want furniture in it, right?
No, you just want to bring in, oh, I missed a step. You just want to bring in your 3D layers. So I'm going to set rescale to millimeters. And then I'm going to change this to the first one, which is layer blocks as node hierarchy. And then layers, I'm going to say select from list. And I'm going to say none. And then I'm going to select just my 3D layers. So balcony, floor, walls, interior, that's it. And so you guys know what your layers are and which ones are pertinent. So you're going to have to come in here and select the ones and make sure you don't bring in any of the junk, basically. All right, now that I have that set, I can say OK. And now it's only going to bring in the stuff that I want. All right, so now we're going to come in here and we're going to trace our interior walls. We're going to do this a little bit differently than we did it last time. What I first want to do is I want to make sure that I put this CAD drawing on a layer. And so I'm going to open up my layer options. And check it out. This is pretty cool. It came in with the layers intact that I set up on the import settings. All right. And so I can kind of hide these if I want to. Just show the interior walls. Just show the exterior walls. So there's my exterior walls. I'm going to show interior and exterior. All right. And then now what I want to do is I want to create another layer. So I'm going to make sure nothing's selected and make a new layer. And I'm going to call this one max walls so that I know that I'm using the max primitives. All right, and that's my active layer. And now the process is pretty much identical to how we did it before, except for under our snap settings, we're going to turn on snap to vertices. And now I'm going to enable the snaps, and I'm going to come over here to create. And I'm going to say AEC extended. I want to use a wall. And now I'm just going to come over here. And actually, this isn't my drawing, so I'm not quite sure how this thing's supposed to work. But I'm just going to start clicking on vertices here. And I think I want to try left justified. Nope, I want right justified. All right, so I'm always going to click on, I do not want a 5-foot deep wall. I want a 1-foot deep wall. And I do not want a 96-foot wall. I want probably a 10-foot wall. Okay. And now I'm going to start creating. So if you'll notice, I'm skipping the openings. Why am I doing that? Exactly, because that's where the doors are going to go. And I don't want to cut those. All right, so I might actually just skip all of these openings. And again, this is not my drawing, so I don't exactly know. That's probably a foundation element there. And then I'm going to come around the corner here. Oops. And I'm going to stop because that looks like all the exterior walls. And it got away from me there. So, okay, so I'm going to come over here into the Create tab. I'm going to do a wall. And I want to snap to vertices this time. Okay, that's all set up. And now I'm going to go. So I'm going to come over here and click on my vertex corner. I'm going to switch it in so it's going inward. Coming around here. Whoops. Coming all the way over. In this case, I want to go all the way over into the next wall. And then I'm going to come down. And then I'm going to enclose this dude. Okay. And then what you might want to do after you create your one bedroom is you want to draw the closet doors. So I'm going to come in here and create another wall here by going boom, boom, boom. All right. And then now I might actually take these guys and make a layer for them. And I'm going to call this like bedroom 1 or something. So I'm going to come over here and grab my layer palette, which was already open. And I want to actually select both of these guys this time. And I want to make a new layer. And I'm going to call this bedroom 1. Walls. Okay. And now I can hide those or unhide those. And then you guys are better with your drawings than I am. And I wish I was an architect and had my own drawings. But I'm more of a viz guy, so I don't. So I'm interpreting someone else's plan here. But this is basically going to be the process. You're going to go around and trace all your walls, all your interior, exterior walls, label everything. For your homework assignment, I want you guys to put all your windows and doors into the entire plan layout. And the goal is for next week, I want you to only focus on the first floor, okay? I don't want you to build the floors above, because I haven't shown you how to do that yet. And so we're just really laying out. So if your plan has multiple stories, don't do it. Just do the first floor, okay? And turn that in for next week, everything mocked up. And then I got one more primitive I want to show you, which is the stairs. Some of you guys were already playing with it. If I go over here to, where is it, stairs, and I'm going to create a, I'll just do a straight stair because that's kind of the easiest one. And I'm going to turn on my grid snaps. And basically, this is the length of the staircase, width of the staircase, height of the staircase. Watch what happens. This is slightly annoying. My grid snaps are set up to grid points. And watch what happens when I click the third one. It flattens it. Even though it had it drawn up, it still flattens it. My theory on this is a max bug, where the reason it would not finish it in height is because there were no 3D grid points in height. They're only on the 2D plane. So you can either turn off the grid snaps and do it and then correct it later, or you can, this is the way I would do it, because I like the precision of making it the width and length that I want. And then what would I do if you guys were smart? And yeah, hit the noodle, select it, right? Come over here, hit the noodle, and now I'm going to change the height. So it goes overall height, and I'm going to change that to like 9 feet. There we go. There's my staircase, and now I can drag that into the space wherever I want to position it. All right, we have the following options. I'm going to put this off to the side. We have, you can add stringers for the sides. You can make them closed or box, so box them all the way down. Whichever you want, whatever architectural style, open. We have stringers. You can do, I'm not quite sure what the carriage is. You can add handrails, so left and right handrails. You can also add rail paths. I'm going to turn off the handrails here for a second and show you what those are. Rail paths just creates a curve, and that curve gets used later by the software to make railings in between here.